Jaya, what's up?
So I have some really exciting news. Guess what? We have another really exciting BITSian alum who has agreed to be on our show. Can you guess who?
That's cool. Is it another entrepreneur from BITS Goa?
No, you have to think more because she is someone who took the most unconventional path post BITS. I'm sure you're gonna be surprised. And this has also solved the mystery of branch code A6.
Okay. Is she from the field of sports?
Nope, more diverse.
A politician?
No, we have already had a politician in this show, Ahana.
Yeah. An artist?
You're close, but she is from the world of films.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Films and bits. Interesting. And what was the mystery of the A6 branch code?
Oh yeah, so for your information, A6 was a branch called Management Sciences, which no longer exists in BITS, but this guest is an A6 alum.
Wow. Cool. I can't wait to see who it is. So let's find out.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk to her.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Bits and Bytes. This time, along with me, I have a brand new host joining us. As a host, this is her first time, but she's been associated with our team from the very beginning and has been heading the content and research aspect of the chat show. She's super talented and I'm really excited to be co-hosting this with her tonight. Without further ado, please welcome her on the show.
Hi everyone, I'm Jaya and thank you Ahana for introducing me to everyone. Without further ado, let me introduce the guest for our show tonight, who is a BITS alum from the 93 batch under a degree in Management Sciences. She had a career as a brand manager in an advertisement firm for 10 long years before she made an unconventional transition to the world of cinema and decided to become a filmmaker.
Since then, she's never looked back and has gone on to direct movies such as Shankuntala Devi, FOMO Shots Please, London, Paris, New York, and a lot more. We're really happy to have her on our show tonight. So please welcome Anu Menon.
Hi ma'am, hello.
How are you?
Good.
We're good. I'm good. I cannot see you. Is your camera off? Yeah, now I can. Hello.
Hello.
How are you? We're really thankful that you agreed to join us.
Thank you.
So thank you.
So,
Okay.
I'm Ahana. I'm a 2019 graduate from BITS Pilani.
Wow. Okay. And you?
And I'm Jaya. I graduated in 2018 from
Okay.
BITS Pilani, Hyderabad campus, same campus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we during this quarantine period, we decided to start this series, and we realized that we don't really have a talk show with Bitsians.
Right.
So many diverse Bitsians across so many domains doing so well that we thought, this is a nice platform and we should really bring everyone together. So that's really where all of this started. So thank you
Okay.
so much.
Good. Thank you.
Jaya, we can begin.
We'll start.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll start with the first segment, which we've named Life in Bits. So here we'll start with the very beginning. We just wanted to know what influenced your decision to join BITS. Like, was it your decision or was it an influence of your family or something which came from being from the Tamram background and living in Delhi that you chose this as your bachelor's?
Actually, no. It was an accident.
Okay.
I wanted to be an architect. I wanted to join architecture, but the year our board exams happened, there was like a major strike, and there was a big, all the admissions. There was like chaotic. So I think IITs were, kind of announced their results really late. So, so then the School of Planning and Architecture that I had applied to had a huge waiting list. So anyway, there was a whole lot of confusion, and I didn't know what was going on. And somebody said, oh, you should apply to BITS Pilani. And I applied to BITS Pilani, and I got in, thinking that, in a year's time, I'm going to go back into architecture. But once I got into BITS, I just kind of never left. So yeah, I don't think, I really didn't think that I was going to apply to BITS. I think I had that little artistic inclination always, even though, I chose sciences after my 10th, because I guess that was something expected. If you are, performing well academically, you kind of went for sciences. I don't think you kind of understood what you wanted to do at that time, but slowly I think there was something creative in me, and I was attracted to architecture and, drawing and capturing things on paper and those kind of things. So yeah, I couldn't become an architect, so I became a filmmaker, I guess.
Was it because of this you also chose consciously to join a management sciences bachelor's? And
no, I just think it was I don't remember exactly what my preferences were, but I think it was kind of based on my marks and all of that I think I got MMS, and I don't think I even understood what MMS was when I went in. I think it was all like, oh my God, I have to join some place. I was in Hindu for 2 months. In Delhi, and then I got BITS, and everyone said, of course you have to go to BITS, and I think that's what happens, when you're 17, 18, like everybody's telling you, what you have to do, and you just want to secure a place somewhere, and you feel the world is ending. And yeah, somehow and because BITS starts later than the rest of the universities. I don't know if it's like that now, because earlier, the rest of the universities start start their their academic year earlier. So yeah, I think somehow I just ended up in BITS, and here I am, a bit of life.
Were you into films since your childhood, like watching films very passionately?
I don't think so. I mean, I watched a lot of films. I mean, I was, because as a South Indian growing up in Delhi, so I was exposed to, I think, multiple sort of, language films. My father grew up in Andhra Pradesh. So, I've also seen like Telugu films growing up, and films like 𝐿 and, those kind of things also influenced us. We watched a lot of, my parents made me, they used to watch a lot of parallel cinema, Sai Paranjpai films and those kind of things. So I think we watched all kind of films, but I don't think, I ever thought that, oh, I could be a filmmaker someday. That was never even a possibility. It was not even like, oh, I want to, be a filmmaker, but, I might not be able to. I don't think you even considered those things, because it just seemed so impractical and out of maybe your consciousness itself.
Yeah, especially not being from a background which has films in it.
We enjoyed film just like we enjoyed books. You enjoyed watching, dance performances. You enjoyed all of that, and any, like, of course we were encouraged to learn singing and all of that, but it was always as a hobby. Nobody said you can never be a filmmaker. That was never a thing. But I just don't think it was there in our, like, I don't think I had ever met a filmmaker or an actor or, so I don't even know when was the first time I met a filmmaker or an actor.
So it never crossed your mind, really, like growing up? It never crossed your mind growing up?
Yeah, it never crossed my mind, no.
So coming to BITS, was there, and since you already mentioned you had some sort of a creative inclination, did BITS provide you an outlet to explore that a little bit more? Like, did you already have well-established, nowadays we call them clubs, which are essentially places where people get to explore different hobbies, ranging from, arts to dance, singing, music, of late filmmaking, but that's a very, very small part of campus right now. It's still growing. So back in your days.
Yeah, I mean, it was always a very it was a hotbed of creativity. That was, so I was surrounded by it. I wouldn't say I created a lot of it. I participated, like I was in R&D, which was a department for OSs. I was in, I did backstage for some plays. So I was not on stage. I don't think I directed a play. So I do think I was still on the peripheries of all this sort of creative, but there was a lot. And I used to look at all these people and I used to feel, oh my God, I wish I had it in me. There was, I mean, people were really committed to, music and art and drama. I mean, there was a lot of it, like films every week, we used to watch films. So it was a very creative environment. But I think I was more of an observer than a participant. I think some people are just, late bloomers. We come into ourselves and understand what we are capable of, or, what we have much later in life. So I think, but I guess, I was exposed to different kinds of music. I mean, I met people, I read different kind of books. So I met a lot of people who had different interests. And I think that kind of opened up my world a lot. So yeah, sure, those influences were there. Yeah, I mean, BITS was always very, very creative. I mean, we had OSs, we used to, it was great. I mean, there was so much we used to do, and we put together like amazing shows. So I was there. I mean, it was happening around us, and it always felt very, it was very like, high energy place. And so, yeah, I think it kind of stays with you. So I wouldn't, like, nobody would know me for, coming up with a play, or, being sort of a well-known writer, actor, or anything on campus. I think I was sort of more of a spectator then, and just taking it all in.
Okay. So talking about this, what kind of friends did you had back in college? Are you still in touch with a few of them right now?
Yeah, I think BITS friendships are always quite intense, especially when you're in a place like Pilani, because it's a bubble, it's remote, and especially in those days, we didn't even have internet. So that was like your family for 4 years. It's very intense. And you're just 17 and you're away from your family and you sort of grow up. So yeah, I think a lot of, my batch and even like older seniors, I mean, these are relationships for life. So a lot of them are still sort of, and I think we constantly, I mean, people always get in touch. When the film released, so many of my seniors, got in touch with me, talking about the film. I think there is the BITSian female group, which I see now, which is again. So I just think that perhaps, that sort of, I think what you go through for those 4 years, I think it's unique for every person. And yet I think it's very similar overall, and that kind of binds you. But yeah, some of my closest friendships are, with BITSians even now. I mean, I think it's kind of like family.
So are they in the similar fields, creative fields, or they have moved
in my immediate group? I mean, there are, I think, some other filmmakers and stuff. Okay. I think that people, but in my immediate group, like my batch, I don't know anyone. I mean, there are people who are doing background music, and there are people who reached out to me for other things. So I'm amongst my immediate friends, I don't know. I mean, I seem to be the oddball, but it was always there. I mean, like it's not like out of ordinary that a BITSian would want to go and become a filmmaker, because I think that space at that time allowed us to explore different things. So while there was, of course, education, which most of us didn't even participate in, but it allowed you to put up plays and do all kind of things. So yeah, I think so it's not a shock for people that, oh my God, how did you become a filmmaker? Because one could imagine a BITSian turning towards filmmaking.
Okay.
how would you describe yourself in your friends group? So were you the shy one or the one who always came up with spontaneous plans and was like the life of the group?
I don't know, but I don't think like my roommates when they, sometimes I don't think I would say maybe I was a bit lost. You can say that, to be honest. And I do think it's important to acknowledge that those years are confusing, and especially when you're not entirely sure what your calling in life is. So I do think that, I mean, they were like, oh my God, like, Anu, come on, study, those kind of things, you have an exam. So yeah, but I would say that I would say that I was a bit all over the place. I don't think I quite knew what I wanted to do with myself. There were a lot of ideas, and I think it's great. A lot of young people have purpose early on in life, and it's great. I don't think I quite found it till late. So I think that kind of affects. But I think, party, so I was definitely not the shy variety. I think that much I can say confidently, that nobody would remember me as shy.
So if you had to sum up your entire college experience in a phrase, what would that be?
I think it opened up a whole new world to me, of all kind of sort of art and culture and all kind of things. And I think I came from such a sheltered family. And then suddenly, there was just, suddenly you're living with whatever 1,000 odd people and interacting with them. And I think that sort of thrust me into that. So yeah.
Okay, interesting. So fast forward in your college life, were you, what kind of roles were you looking at after college for jobs?
I wanted to, I think again, college placement there were a lot of corporate jobs, and I got a job as a management trainee in sort of an Indian corporate, which paid really well for those times. And I was like, yeah, I took it. And then as I joined, and about like 6 months into it, I applied to advertising, because I felt that maybe, that was something I would like to do, or at least that seemed more exciting. So I was posted in some, I think it was in Amritsar or something, that sent me for a sales training. And I was like, okay, I don't think this is happening. So I wrote a handwritten resume and sent it off in response to an ad for Lintas Bangalore, and I posted it. And I think, they were just so amused with my, resume, that they called me for an interview. And I think, and then I think then they gave me a job, and that's how I got into advertising.
And what role were you exactly in this advertising company?
I was a strategy. I started as an account executive, but very quickly I changed to what's called a strategy planner.
Okay.
So what you come up with is, brand strategies. So you see how to position, how you come up with how should we position a product. And then you write a creative brief for the creative people, who then come up with ideas. And then you kind of see, do those creative ideas then deliver to your brand's promise, does the brand promise and the consumer expectation sort of come together. So yeah, it involves a lot of research, it involves strategy, it also involves a lot of analysis, data analysis, and all of that. So it's both, again, it made use of my analytical skills, my left brain from my sort of semi-engineering background, and my need to do something creative. So I guess that was my first step towards being in some sort of a creative environment.
Mm-hmm.
And and I was there for quite a while. I was in multiple agencies. Then I got headhunted to a job in Singapore. Okay. And it was then that I just felt like that was the time, I think, when I felt like, I want to be a filmmaker. And I don't know exactly when that thought even came. But at that time, my husband was in New York, and I went to do a workshop at the New York Film Academy. Okay. And the whole thing just felt so right. I've never felt at home doing something.
So you would say it was a very impulsive decision that you wanted to do this and you just jumped into it right away.
I did actually. So I took in my, annual leave, I went and did a workshop first, which is it was a 2-week workshop.
Okay.
So I went to do it saying that I don't know what filmmaking involves, and I'm just going to give this a shot. And so I gave it a shot, and I felt very comfortable in it. It felt right. And so I gave up my job and joined London Film School full time. And then my journey began. And I think for the first time I studied. I was like really into education, into what they taught me. I think every lesson I was like in it full. Yeah.
So tell us a little more about some of your film inspirations. What were the first few filmmakers or directors or actors who really, left an impression on you?
I think around that time, when I first, of course they were, when films, you watched films and they were like these larger than life things. And I think slowly with people like Farhan Akhtar and Karan Johar, the kind of films changed in late 90s. It still didn't feel like my world. It felt like, okay, I'm seeing from outside. But I remember watching Monsoon Wedding. I remember watching, films like by Sofia Coppola, and I remember watching, a film called Mr. and Mrs. Iyer by Aparna Sen. I think, they're all like female filmmakers.
Right.
Yeah.
And I kind of understood that language. I kind of felt like I like these. I felt like this is something that it felt like an extension of me. It didn't feel like I'm looking from outside or from far away. It felt like it was very close to who I was, my experiences, how I would think. And that's how it kind of started, that, I could perhaps have something in me to express as well in similar lines, because these stories are personal.
Yeah.
These stories are not just larger than life, sort of extravaganza, but there is just some sort of pursuit of some kind of truth and those kind of things, and that's how it started. Not that I enjoyed watching all those films, but I felt like a spectator always, but the first time in these films I felt like I was with the film. I felt like a participant, and that's when I started to understand. I started to understand, like the choices they were making, or I started to notice them. And that's kind of, I think, how I found the courage to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. But the film school gives you like a lot of space to find your voice and kind of let you be and figure out, and without judgment. So I think that was good for me. That was really good for me. It was academic, but at the same time, it was quite what should I say? We practical stuff we used to do. We made a lot of films. We made a lot of shitty films. We made some good films. So it was good. It was like, we all got our hands dirty, and that's how I think something came out of it. And I think I felt like, okay, when I stepped out, I felt like a filmmaker.
Did you sort of discover your film philosophy in some sense? Like for instance, to take Imtiaz Ali, for instance, right? Most of his films have this undertone of old school romance. And no matter what he does, he really, you can tell he really, really believes in it. He wants his audience to believe in it. So do you also have some kind of a philosophy that drives, your work?
Actually, I don't. I think I feel like, I think I am committed to the film, and the film drives me rather than the other way around. So I feel like I have to be true to the film, and even in film school, for example, I used to say I want to make rom-coms, and everyone used to like look at me like I was an alien, because in a film school nobody wants to make a rom-com. And so when we had to make our graduation films, everybody makes one film. I presented 3 films. I made a social documentary, a social drama film. It's called Ravi Goes to School. You guys can check it out. It's on YouTube somewhere. And then I made a documentary called Baby about, you know, this maid who writes a book, and it's quite raw and, you know, a very sort of, what should I say, like a driving, like a, you know, a political piece almost. And then I made a rom-com called Fuck, Helen and Harry, which I shot in Ireland. So, you know, I made these three kind of things because I felt all these three were me, you know. I wanted to pursue, like, you know, I was so drawn to this woman's life and her journey that when I made that, I was true to her voice and I did that. And similarly, so I think that has always then been sort of my approach, that, you know, I like everything. I watch all kind of films and I read all kind of books. I'll read thrillers, and then I read autobiographies, and I read, and I just feel like there's room for everything, and I want to do it all. And I think when I take up something, I like the idea of genres. I like the idea of, you know, delivering to those genres, having that relationship with the audiences. And I think that also comes from my advertising background, because I kind of, there is my brand promise, and then there is the audience expectation, and then how do you kind of bring the two together. So so when people want to watch like an indie film, like a Waiting, you know, they want the authenticity. You need to kind of take them on that immersive journey. But when you make a larger than life film like Shankuntala, you have, you know, you have a slightly different expectation, and then you play with that. So I think to me, those are the things that sort of drive my filmmaking. And I think it's becoming clearer to me as well as I go along. I don't think, for me, it would be boring to see a version of me in every film, because I want to see different versions of myself, because I want to reinvent myself all the time. When people, like when I find a new aspect to life or an attitude or something I didn't know, I find that exciting.
That's an amazing segue to what we were actually discussing. So we were discussing about this thing of, you know, how directors, because they're so invested, right? Like half the time, like they have to be the actor in the film in order to be able to better describe the process to the, you know, crew and cast. So do you think that's a requirement? Because you said, like, you know, you love, you could relate to all the characters, which are so diverse in the things you make. So in some sense, you're vicariously living your life through these characters.
I think yes and no. I think you have to, you vicariously live, but at the same time, you also have a distance. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I do, for example, it is a joke, because when I sometimes talk to my actors and I'm describing, I am acting with them. So there are like some very funny videos of me acting, and it's a bit of a joke, because they're like, you know, they say, "Acha, tu hi kar le na." So I will act out everything and show to them, and then I do it to both men and women. Like, so in 4 More Shots, I used to show how to, you know, do the lovemaking. And so there's some very funny videos on me trying to seduce the girl and, you know, showing how to, so there is, it's all of that. So it's maniac. I mean, it's quite crazy, which is what I'm saying. Again, 4 More Shots. I mean, it's true to 4 More Shots, because it is that space, you know, because it takes a very cosmopolitan, Vogue kind of a format, and, you know, then talks about all kind of things. So, you know, then it builds a relationship with the audience who enjoy, you know, reading those magazines, and through that, you know, you talk about feminism, you talk about, you know, all kind of things. So I think that's why I feel like, you know, they're all unique in their own way, and in each one you kind of, but they're all me, you know. I mean, I'm saying there is a bit of me in all of them. I have binged watched Sex and the City, but also I watch some really serious films. So and I have a relationship with Sex and the City as much as, you know, I have it, you know, some very, you know, serious whatever award-winning films, personal films. So yeah, I think so I think it's kind of how you bridge that gap with your actors. There are many ways to, you know, you approach different ways, but yeah, it kind of like you do sort of become those people, because especially for when you write those characters, then
Right.
you're sort of living with them, for so long, that you have, and that's also dangerous, to be honest. It's like you have to give that space for the actors also to bring in. So you have to constantly say, okay, enough of my acting, why don't you act? So so I think it's a lot of give and take that happens.
So you said that you could relate to almost too many genres. So
Yeah.
this relatability, does it come from you reading a lot of books since the start? Did that help you to actually be able to relate to such different variety of genres?
I also think because of the life I've led, I have lived in many places. I've met,
Yeah.
I think I've had like multiple sort of life experiences. And I think that just makes me kind of be open to all kind of things without sort of, judgment. So, I also like, I mean, there are a lot of amazing directors that I look up to who are like that. Like, for example, you have someone like Sam Mendes, who one minute, he's doing James Bond, and then, he's doing 1917, and then he does a theater. So I like that, it's very exciting, because every time you go into the unknown. And I think that has been, because I thought I would be an architect, then I go and do MMS, then all my friends are going to US, but I take up a corporate job, then I sit in Amritsar and write a resume to go and join advertising in Bangalore. So you see, I think these are patterns in life that you sort of exhibit. Then I go off to Singapore, and then I traveled all from Vietnam to Cambodia. I lived in all these places. So I think that sort of informs the kind of choices you make, and I love the variety. I love, right now I'm trying to write a whodunit, and it's just so different from anything I've written or I've cracked. But I love thrillers. I think I must have read, I think Agatha Christie, though I read in school like a meme. I think I was 8th standard, 9th standard. I must have read every Agatha Christie possible. So I think all these things kind of stay within you.
Yeah.
Okay. So coming back to the point where you said that the film drives you, I really wanted to know, what is the flowchart like in a successful film, to be successful? Like, is it that you go to the screenwriter or the script writer with an idea that I have this idea, I have this story in my mind, and I want you to write it? Or does the script writer come to you with a good story as a director, and you just have try to understand that?
I think there are different ways. I think, for example, London, Paris, New York, I wrote the script myself, and then I went to a producer. And then, we brought a dialogue writer who then did, the Hindi dialogues for it. Waiting, again, I wrote with another writer from the beginning. I had this idea, but I didn't know how to kind of build. So I had a co-writer. Then we brought a dialogue writer, so James co-wrote it with me. Then Atika wrote the Hindi dialogues. And then, when I wrote, and then, we went to a producer. 4 more shots. I didn't write it. I was approached to direct it. So I came in as a director. So I didn't, I was of course part of the writer's room and stuff where we'd get in ideas, but it's Devika and Ishita's, writing. Shankuntala Devi, again, I had another co-writer, Nanika. Then we brought Ishita to do. So I think it varies. Sometimes the ideas come from you. Sometimes it comes from someone else, but what clicks where. Sometimes a producer calls you and says, I have this idea, or I want to adapt this book. So yeah, I think there are multiple ways how something starts.
So for
And
you,
it's a lot of, sorry?
It's easier to make a film which has come from yourself, like you have written that. Is it easier for you to make that film rather than someone else coming and giving you a script or a story?
I think no, I think it's both. I think I like it when others come, because you have a little bit more objectivity. So I think but when you are a writer yourself and you're also creating ideas, sometimes you end up eventually it ends up like, what is it that gets financed? So it just has so happened that a lot of things that have come from me has got financed. But I have always liked people. I've always encouraged writers to approach me with ideas, and I find I love FOMO shots because there was a certain distance I had from the writing process, so I could concentrate on directing. So when you're a writer and director, it is a bit exhausting. So I don't, again, there is no set rule for any of these things. Some people want to do everything. Some, they write, they direct, they act in it, they edit, they do all of that. And it's amazing because they're just so invested in it. And some people just get burnt out and lose objectivity. So I think you need to understand who you are. I don't think it's sort of one thing. I don't think there's one sort of creativity thing that happens for all creative people. So I think each person responds to these things differently. But I do find it exhausting when I write and direct, and every time I think, no, yeah, I'm not going to write my own script, and then cut to I'm writing my script.
So are you also working parallelly on different scripts?
Yes, you have to. Because you never know what gets made and when something will get made. So all of us have multiple things in development. Yeah, and then whatever kind of goes on the floors first.
So to lighten things up a bit,
sure.
Tell us a little bit about, so you developed an interest in filmmaking, and then you started expecting things from this field and things, and when it all really came together, the first day of shoot, as the director, okay, this is my film, this is my territory.
Yeah.
There must have been, what was that like exciting?
It's a crazy feeling. And I remember telling to my producer at that time, I said, it's just so odd that it was this one little thought in my head. And now there are 200 people who are making it, come to life. Yeah. I think it's bizarre. I found it extraordinary. It's they're all here to make this thought in my head, become a reality. They're the actors, the producers, there's money being put into it. All this because I sat in my house and thought, what if? So I think it's a very humbling and exhilarating, process. It strikes me every now and then when I'm standing and I'm like, shit, they're all here because I thought of something. So yeah, so I think that's exactly sort of a crazy thought, that crosses my mind every time. Yeah, and I remember that very distinctly on the first day of my London, Paris, New York shoot.
Where was that? So when?
In London. It was in London.
Okay.
Yeah.
You remember which scene you were shooting first?
I think maybe it was the aeroplane. It's the first opening shot, I think, when they're just landing or something like that. I can't remember. I think it was that, yeah.
Okay. So out of all the works which you've done, which is your favorite film, your own work, which gave you that sense of satisfaction and a sense of achievement?
I don't think you can say that. I think you kind of love everything and hate everything. So I can't watch any of my work once it's kind of done. So, the first few days when it's released, I'll watch it because, I'll watch it with my family, I'll watch it with some friends. After that, I'll never watch what I've done because I outgrow them. So I kind of after that, it's just, it belongs to, the audiences. And when people write to me on waiting. Even now, every other day, I get a letter, a heartfelt letter. The amount of love I got in Shankuntala was something else I had never experienced. But even 4 more shots, really made a huge impact. But every now and then I'll meet someone who'll say, oh my God, that romantic film you made. So I think that's the thing about filmmaking is I think once the film is made, I think it belongs to the audiences and not the filmmaker. Because the filmmaker has moved on. But then because when an audience watches that particular thing, then they experience it. So, it's people are still watching Waiting. People are still watching, FOMO shots for the first time. Or people are still watching, some young kids, it's on Hotstar and stuff like that. They'll come across London, Paris, New York on a rainy afternoon and they'll be like, oh, that was so cute. And, for them, it has come to them at that point in time. But for me, it was like, like that happened 8 years back. So I think it's a whole different way of, I'm not very attached to my work. I think I'm very attached to it till it releases. Once it's released, I'm like, it's over.
Right. So moving on to something that's quite relevant today, and we wanted to hear your opinion on it. So basically, there's so much content out there, right? And it
Yeah.
caters to, like you said, a variety of different audiences. But as a filmmaker, like for instance, there was this huge debate surrounding Kabir Singh, the movie, right? That released. So there was this one segment which felt like you cannot just, like, our audience isn't mature enough to see something like this and appreciate the art in the film. It's, influencing people the wrong way. And then there was this segment which just said that this is just a character, and you should appreciate the intricacies of the character, look at the art, and not anything else. So as a filmmaker, do you think that filmmakers should take a responsibility for the kind of content they put out, or what is the way to really, because when a filmmaker starts making a film, they have a certain idea about it, but to make sure that it registers with the audience exactly like that is a huge task.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I agree. You see, it's a complicated task. Um, so I mean, increasingly, it's becoming very clear that the politics of the film are important in today's day and age, and I think it's a good thing. So when I write, I'm not saying that doesn't mean that you can't have gray characters. It doesn't mean that you don't have a Kabir Singh kind of a character. But I think what people are saying, it's the prism through which you present this person, right? I mean, if a person is having all these dark thoughts, where he thinks that he owns a woman, and he deserves to kind of earn her love, which is that sort of a passionate love, which is a great, which you feel like that, and all of us, who went to engineering colleges have seen, these kind of things where, the women are in a minority. They are, we are sort of, we feel a sense of worthlessness. We feel a sense of, that maybe, my voice doesn't add too much. And also in that little bubble, when a senior gives you all that attention, you think, it's more important. So there is all of that. And this has been then told from the man's point of view.
yes.
So yeah, sure. I mean, it comes from that sort of lack of self-awareness that boy at that age would have had. So I get all of that, but I do think that, if the redemption, what happens to the character, the way the character redeems himself, those things are important, and it's important to have these discussions. You cannot say, "Arey yaar, ye to film hai, kuch bhi chalta hai." I mean, you can say that also, but then also be prepared that people will question you. So I don't think it's an offense. I mean, you can do what you want on a film, but I think it's important that people question that as well. So when I watched, I didn't watch the Hindi version. I watched the Telugu version, and I found it very fascinating. But like, I found the character really fascinating. But I said, okay, so this guy is such a toxic character, and I didn't understand. But and the girl had zero agency.
Yeah.
You see, so you kind of, so this is what it is. So this is. And you have to recognize it for what it is. I mean, now that's what the filmmaker's point of view is. And that is his understanding of the world.
Right.
You see, so your understanding of the world is reflected in your cinema. So he feels entitled to a female, to a female character's affections just because, he needs it or he wants it or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think he has made that film. I mean, it's his prerogative to make those films. You cannot say, yeah, your point of view, why are you making this film? But people can question, the politics of the film and have discussions on it. And I think it's healthy. And I think and I'm sure the next time he goes and makes the film, he will, and this sense of entitlement has been shown on our screen repeatedly. And this conditioning has existed amongst us. I mean, all of us, especially, who have grown in these environments where, there is like a majority of, male energy around us. So I think I wouldn't, I mean, so you can see there is the craft and then there is the politics. And so I think you can see that the craft is, quite sort of sophisticated. I mean, he has that cinematic sort of energy and all of that, but his politics are his politics. And, I cannot agree with those politics, because I just feel like this is a problem in our world where men feel entitled and this thing. So I felt he made the film and there was the conversation, and all of that is good. If he hadn't made the film, we wouldn't have had this conversation. We wouldn't all have had these sort of different takes on it. So I think, it's for the best. I mean, but it also shows what people are consuming, because I don't think when people saw the film, then that's the thing. You see, when people watch a film and consume a film like Kabir Singh, I don't think they were consuming toxic male energy. They were consuming a man who was madly in love. And I think for young people, I think, there are not that many love stories anymore. I think just to see a man madly in love, and that was what like our regular films used to be, boy crazily in love with a girl, and, boy meets girl and all of that. And so I think people like that. So I don't think people were thinking of him because that's a conditioning.
Yeah.
So I think to unravel all these things, it's interesting, it's important, and therefore, I kind of open it up. I feel like it's good that all of it is happening.
Right.
So end this segment with, again, a very relevant topic, feminism. So
Sure.
I read in an interview, you mentioned, and I totally agree, that in today's day and age, in films particularly, right, whenever feminism has to be explicitly shown, it's always like, the woman smoking or drinking or like peeing in public or whatever. So that's shown as, the image of a woman who is free to do whatever she wants to be. But that's not necessarily what feminism means or even suggests. And then there are films, so there are also films which implicitly, show feminism, which make more
Like
sense
Piku.
in terms of what feminism represents.
Yeah, something like Piku, which did not showcase this, but it was a great example of what feminism stands for.
So how would you describe, I mean,
I actually, I don't know what I said in that interview, but generally what I feel is, I don't think we can prescribe to one norm. The fact that, what I meant was that it has become a shorthand.
yes,
That if you become, I'm not saying that it's not feminism. I mean, it is still feminism.
yeah.
I mean, if a woman is allowed to smoke, drink, and pee in public on screen, it is still feminism. But what it has become was, it became sort of like a shorthand but especially, when we talk male filmmakers, like suddenly I'm like, why is she so crude? Like, I mean, if a woman is, supposed to be a feminist, she is, not a very, like so she becomes a male version of, and that suddenly, that's to me is like, okay, that's one aspect, because, every time, you're judged for drinking, you're judged for smoking, you're judged for whatever. So then that became, so for me, it's like, it became sort of, repetitive. So I felt like, you don't have to always use that. I think everything should be intrinsically, feminist in the choices you make. But I feel like that has become a handle. So for example, if like a woman has to rebel to do something, so if she rebels to smoke or, drink or whatever, then that becomes a shorthand for feminist stories, which is also, which is a very valid narrative. But for me, I was like, listen, for me, I already wanted to show people drinking, smoking, whatever, having sex, and not feeling rebellious about it, because it was like post-rebellion. I'm like, I want to show women, which is the thing. If, in former shots also, they told us, oh, just because you're showing, girls having sex and drinking. But I'm like, none of them are rebelling to drink. They're drinking as, it's like, it was never like, oh my God, look, these girls are drinking. It was never that. I mean, 4 friends get together and, they drink, and the rest of the things happen. But still, we are, we are still kind of in those sort of, we are not able to associate, these things with women. So for me, it's like, let's go past that. I mean, come on, we don't have to stage a rebellion to be able to have a smoke. I mean, or to just have sex. So, all these, for me, what I had liked about a show like FOMO Shots was that it's post that discussion. It's about women are not rebelling to have sex, but they want to have good sex. They want to have, so they're all having good sex. So you see also the way sex is shown on Indian screen for women, right? It's always a bad experience. They're either rebelling to have sex, or they're like getting raped, or they're like getting sexually harassed or something. Where is the joyful sex on Indian screen for women? I think one of the reasons a lot of people loved, especially girls living in small towns and everything, because they were just happy to see young women having sex on screen and in a happy way. And I think people don't and these are the conversations, people underestimate that. This feels like rebellion, oh my god, like she did a rebellion just to have sex. But like for me was, let's push the narrative a bit. I'm not saying this narrative is not valid, please don't get me wrong, because every narrative is valid, and I think we have to kind of sort of have space for all the narratives. And similarly, like Piku is feminist in her own way, because she holds her ground against whatever patriarchal setup she is in and finds her space. So that is also feminism. So the thing about feminism is that I don't think there is कि ये feminism है and इसका rule 1 2 3 4 है. I think that's the thing. So I think we need to be a lot more, I think, accommodating when we talk feminism, because I think very quickly we say, Acha, this is not feminism, yeah, that is feminism. This is not feminism, yeah, that is feminism. I think we tend to do a lot of that.
Yeah, and exactly. I think this is very debatable still, and it has become a very complex and confusing topic with different perspectives.
I know, and to
allowing people to express, allowing women to express themselves. I mean, why? I mean, anybody who says your feminism, my feminism is better than your feminism, that itself is a starting point. They're like, yeah, but this is not feminist. That is not feminist. I'm like, so I feel like these things, people, everybody is at a different stage of discovering themselves. There are women who are not allowed to smoke and drink. For them, when they have their first smoke and drink, it's like the ultimate, rebellion, ultimate freedom for them. But then but I'm saying as a society, we need to move ahead now. So like we can't just be there on screen. I want to see more. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying that had become like a thing initially. So where every film, like, especially like I found, these characters who were like, I didn't understand like what was going on. I found it very difficult to relate, but I'm not saying that's not the truth, but I feel like it's important to explore other aspects also and appreciate them.
I agree. So like FOMO Shots, the other thing that struck us also was that, it was one of the few films which actually showed female friendships on screen. Like always have male friendships. There's a Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, there's a Dil Hai. They're like, okay, they exist, but this also exists,
Yeah.
So really, good thing as well. So we got to see some of that on screen. Okay, so now we move on to the last segment, which is a very quick round, and it's the most cliched round in a talk show, but then you can't have a talk show without it either. So it's a rapid fire round. 5 questions with very quick 1 word, 1 sentence answers.
Okay, no asking favorite film, huh? I don't have a favorite film. If you have that, you change that question.
We don't have that. Okay. We have a twisted version of that.
So the first one is, which movie do you wish you had directed? Not any of your movies, someone else's which you really like, you wish you had directed.
Oh, so many, yeah. So many. Do you mean Indian or
anything?
Any film which comes in the top of your head.
Lost in Translation.
Okay. Next is, rate the characters of FOMO Shots, please, in the order you like them the most. Anjana, Umang, Siddhi.
I can't do that. Are you mad? The 4 girls are going to kill me. You want me
the one you relate to the most.
Like the character you relate to the most, maybe.
I think that's hard, yeah. I mean, obviously I related to Anjana the most because, she was the married one with a kid, and, she was more matured than the rest. So obviously a lot of, insights from my life I used to put into that. But I think again there was a bit of us in everything. That's what we used to say. I mean there was Damini's character who is trying to sort of find her place in the world, and also she's very lost. I mean, again, these are the things, like you're a feminist, you want to change the world, but you're also a girl who wants to fall in love. So just because you're a feminist and you want to change the world doesn't mean like you don't blush when you see a boy that has an impact on you or an effect on you. So I like that sort of contradictions in her character. I mean, I think Siddhi, I mean, the fact, the double sort of the hypocrisy that sort of one lives in, right? Where she's this acha bacha, and like she's, again, this is the thing. I mean, just, where she kind of follows all the rules of the society, but the society itself is so twisted. The rules that you have versus what the men have. So I think that allowed us to sort of explore through her. So I think Bani was perhaps, her character perhaps is someone who I would say is furthest away from, my experiences. But that's also, I think, was very interesting to see how it would have been for, a young, girl to come from a small town and, find her sexuality and sort of polish herself. So I think Umang has always been like a favorite for a lot of people too. So yeah, I think there are like, I think, multiple things in multiple characters.
Okay.
Next. So directing short films or full-length ones?
Full-length ones.
Okay. Next is, if you had to make a biopic on these following people, what would you name them? First is Anu Menon.
Actually, you know what? There's somebody, the Ajay, who is Anupama Shakuntala's daughter's husband. He named me Chewing Gum.
Okay.
Basically, he said that, एक बार chewing gum लग जाए ना, वो निकलता नहीं है. So he said that once Anu decides to do something, she doesn't let go. So I think, it's people, one thing that people associate me with is perseverance. So I think chewing gum might be my biopic.
Okay.
I think it's fairly apt.
Second one is Vidya Balan.
Oh, Vidya Balan. I think Vidya is 100%. I think she's 100%. I think that's what it is, because Sat Pratishat, is that. I think she gives it all. Yeah, I've never seen someone like that. When it comes to just, giving all of herself to, the role, the process, the energy she brings on the set every time. It's just something else. So yeah, I think 100%.
Okay.
And she lives her life like that, She's 100%, like she, the ups and the low, downs, she embraces them 100%. So yeah.
And 𝐿𝐼 𝐾𝐲, the last one.
𝐿𝐼 𝐾𝐲. Oh, okay. I think she's like a river. Like she flows, man. She's like, I think she kind of absorbs and yeah, I think she's what do you call that? I don't know, like a like something that flows and just absorbs things along the way. So a river, a flow, a current, a river called 𝐿𝐼. I don't know.
So the last question is, what is the most challenging and most exciting part of your job?
Exciting is, I think, the whole, like when it all sort of comes together, when the first day of shoot, it's because that's when it becomes a reality. Till then it's all like castles in the air. So I think the first day of the shoot is perhaps the highest point, in filmmaking. I think the challenging part of this job is how do you deal with rejection. And whatever level you are, wherever you are, I think constantly you will face rejection. I mean, even after, you face rejection when, you pitch it to producers, they don't get it. Like when you pitch it to actors, they say no. Like there is just so much rejection that you face in a journey. And then when you put it out, of course, people will like you, some people will not like it, some reviews will be good, some reviews will be bad. And it's so personal. It is just so personal that I think, to me, like, that is the biggest challenge, is to how do you keep believing in yourself through it all.
Yeah, this was the end of our rapid fire round. I hope you enjoyed it.
So
now we have a surprise segment for you. There'll be someone from BITS who will be joining us.
Lovely.
Any guess?
That person.
I have to guess that person.
Yeah.
Yes, and
is it my batch?
Yes, your batch.
Girl or boy?
Girl.
No, it'll be fine. I was going to say.
No, it's fine. Girl. We'll narrow down the options. Now you guess.
Does she live in India?
20 questions with us.
Yeah, it's getting a game again.
Yeah, what?
Yeah, she's living in India.
Mumbai?
No. Just give us one name.
Ra?
No.
No.
Okay, we'll tell you.
Okay.
Let her come.
No. Tell me first. I don't want to like suddenly like you.
Okay,
if I don't recognize, I haven't seen my friends in like.
It's your wingy.
It's your wingmate.
Wingmate,
Sudha?
yeah. Ruchika.
Oh my god!
I'll just admit her.
I haven't seen Ruchika in so long.
Hi Ruchika, can you hear us? Hi.
Chalo, isi bahane I've seen you.
If nothing else, at least we'll say hi to each other.
Yes, exactly.
Hopefully follow up to
My MMS, not just my batchmate, my MMS mate.
Right.
girls didn't know what MMS was. They thought it was like one. Figure out what the degree was, and she said very few people. I said no, we used to have as many as any engineering degree.
Yes.
Yeah. After that time, but it kind of closed.
Yeah.
Anu?
Yeah, good. Actually, they've been asking me a lot of deep questions about BITS. I was like,
I think she's a little disconnected from it because they were asking me some questions. Like for the life of me, couldn't remember. I said, like 3 years ago, whether you were academic oriented or you were,
You were. I remember you were. You were a good girl.
I was more conscious about my academics than she was, definitely.
I think what I told them was that I think the one thing I remember about BITS is that I was lost. And I think, and it's okay, I think, to be lost when you're between 17 to 21, not knowing what you want to do in life or what you want to. And I think I floated in BITS. And I suppose, so they were like, what do they were asking me if people would think I'm shy. I said, that's one thing I know. Nobody will remember me as shy.
I know. They asked me also whether you were quiet type. I said, no, not at all. She was quite social, but I think because, I was telling them we've been connected somehow in our careers also, we have common careers on and off every few years we've been meeting.
Yeah.
So kind of the journey just took us wherever, We started off at BITS as a base, but then different journeys.
Yeah. And I think what it is, is BITS allows you to sort of have, I think everybody followed their paths, like, did different things. I mean, you became an entrepreneur, set up your own company, which is scary.
I think it gives you a lot of confidence. It kind of helps you to be independent, I think, on campus. it wasn't
Yeah.
necessary to be attending classes or anything like that. It was your choice. So you made your choices, and therefore I think that
Face
helped.
the consequences for that.
We have someone else joining.
Yeah, so this is one of our teammates who has been doing video editing for us.
I was hoping it wasn't one of our batchmates. And
I was like, please tell me the name, because I was so scared. Ruchika, they'll like show me like, because, you know, we were so many of us. And you know, you play the guess game. Thank God. Like, you know, I was like, I don't want to say something wrong.
Person, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is Harsha. He's our video editor, as Jaya mentioned. So apparently there was so we graduated already, Jaya and I, but Harsha's still in BITS. So there was a webinar, I think, after your release of Shankuntala, and all these guys were asking questions, and he, poor thing, I think when his question came, the time was over. So he just couldn't ask, and he was so excited to know that you're coming on. So we were like, okay, good. See, for you, we got on.
Okay.
What was
I'm
that?
here. Ask away.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you, ma'am? Everything fine?
Yeah.
I think he got.
So I'm audible, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. So personally, I am a lot interested in filmmaking, ma'am. I write stories, screenplays. I have made a few short films too. I'm into cinematography and editing also. So say like if a person like me, or I want to enter the film or entertainment industry, yeah, as a director or any other technician, like what path should be followed and which route is much better to be followed? Any insights
This
on
is
that?
I don't think there is an answer to this question. I'm so sorry, because I think,
Okay, yeah.
you know, it's like, you know, how do I it's like, I think there are so many ways you can become a filmmaker in today's day and age. You know, you create your content, you put it on YouTube. You want to join, you know, a film set and become a assistant director and assist a filmmaker. You want to, you know, go to film school and learn more about yourself, so about filmmaking. So I think each person will have to find that path for themselves. I don't think there is. I mean, I joined film school after like 10 years of working. So I don't think there is one path. I think you will have to do the hard work of, you know, finding the multiple options that you know, you could choose. I mean, do you want to study more? Do you want to understand more? Do you want to, you know, assist somebody, or do you just want to go and do it? You know, you can make films on a phone these days. So I think what you want, you have to maybe define what you want out of it and sort of go after that. I'm sorry, there is no easy answer to this that I can sort of give you.
Say like if someone wants to, say like in Bollywood, say someone wants to like go meet a producer or something, is there a way, or is it like just if you're lucky enough to have a contact, then you might have a chance like that?
I think you'll have to find producers, make a list of producers you want to meet, and then find ways of meeting them. I didn't know anybody. I lived in London. You know, you kind of make a list, you find out other, like any other industry, you know, you find out, now you do your research. So, I mean, you know, Ruchika and her husband started a company. So they, you know, they would have said, okay, I have to, you know, I'm going to do a company based on, you know, research. Ruchika, you guys are still doing that, right?
Definitely connected to research. Yeah, so I was about to tell something similar to what Anu said. You'll have to make a list of your prospects, figure out what you want to do, how do you go and meet them. So even in a regular business, you make cold calls, you drop an email, you try and find within your network if there's somebody that, you know, can help you probably cross that first gatekeeper. So you'll have gatekeepers for every prospect. It's like for any other business, it's the hard way. I mean, sometimes
there is no easy answer that anybody can say do A, B, C.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up. So, Ruchika, regarding what you said, so especially in businesses, right? Do you think it's a good idea to start businesses with friends? Because, you know, friendships of course, it's easy to say, right? That, oh, yeah, I'm very comfortable. So the working rapport.
I want to say what Ruchika answered. First, she married a friend, and then she started a business with that friend. So I want to know what's her answer to that.
No.
Yeah, like,
you know what? Again, I don't think, definitely, I believe couples working together is not the best thing. So our third partner had many of witnesses of PG on one side and me on one side, arguing, and he's just sitting quietly and waiting for it to subside. No, but what happens is it depends at what stage you are in. So when you have 2 or 3 people starting as a business, you have more bandwidth, right? You have more management bandwidth. You can split roles because you have to be the CEO, you have to be the operations, you're also the chokidar. You're going to open the lock for your new office because you won't hire security or you don't have funds. So you'll have to do all the roles. So it helps when you are 2, 3 people, you can bounce off ideas, the risk is not all your own, 3 of you can kind of be jointly involved. But it's what happens is as you progress, it's difficult to maintain that same partnership and respect, and there'll always be somebody who'll have an issue. So I think when you are a team, you have to be very clear who's the leader. So all 3 cannot be leads, or both can't be the boss. So someone has to realize, okay, this is the person who's going to be the leader or the face of the company, and I may be doing some part. So you have to have clear cut roles. So it doesn't happen because you're comfortable. It has to happen that each of you bring something to the table and will grow together. So that's how it happens. And I think when you start off young, it's very difficult. You don't have the funds. So, when you're 2, 3 or 4, you feel, okay, we are together. There's somebody else along with you. We can do it together. But even if you're individual, great. I mean, then I've generally seen individuals are like someone who's got a superb, unique idea. And then, through that, they are able to, but even they have to hire a strong team.
Yeah,
You have to have like almost your startup team who has to work along. One person can't do it all.
I think what you mean, again, just like even in films, I don't think, you will come up with something strong just because you're friends. I think you have to bring something to the table. And I think if you have that unique thing, each person is coming to the table and there is that sort of equality, that's when I think relationships work. The other thing I think is we all need to know that, what I have realized, I'm sure it's in business and everything, is people outgrow each other. And we should allow that space for people to, say that, okay, you know what, maybe this isn't working. Or maybe, this is not what I wanted. The other person can feel that. So just because, you were friends or you started that, I don't think that should be binding. And I think I have learned that, especially like with creative collaborations and stuff like that. It's so, personal and intense. And sometimes you're looking at things very differently. Right. And it's okay. It's okay to say that, okay, we are not on the same page and let go. So I think as far as, so of course it has to be fair and, nobody should lose out because of that. And I think, I'm sure it's the same in business as well, because
I mean, sometimes you have to let go and let one person's decision, to move forward. Sometimes you let go as in you go your separate paths. So, we've also had that in our case. So like even my husband kind of moved out. He was not agreeing with that entire scheme of things. He said, okay, my shareholding remains, but I want to do something else. So he moved out of operations. And that was his personal decision. It wasn't something that I agreed with, but that was his call. So you have to just allow for that independent kind of thought.
Okay. So, yeah, Hannah, you have any more questions?
No, I think this was really fun. I'm glad we could surprise Anu.
Yeah, you did.
That expression
really cool.
was priceless.
That was very cool.
Oh, I hope it was a good experience. Now we should do something with Vivek and PG and you.
Yeah, but let's do a Zoom. Yeah, we should now. At least we've understood you can talk, socialize on Zoom. That has been my biggest learning.
Yeah. Of course, I mean, I'm zoomed out most of these days with the conference calls and all that, but it would be nice to connect. It's been a long, long time.
It's been a really long time. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ruchika, for coming, and that too in such short notice.
Thank you, Ruchika. Thank you.
Welcome, Anu. Good.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
That you got your moment in fame. Love that.
Well, whatever.
Okay. Fahana and Jaya.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
And I would like to say to Ma'am Anu that as Nitesh Tiwari made a film on his college life of IIT Bombay, are you planning to make any film on BITS? Because we are ready.
Yeah, why not? I think from a female point of view, I don't think we've seen an engineering college.
Yeah.
So I think we deserve a reverse Kabir Singh.
Definitely.
So yeah, maybe you've given me food for thought.
So that was a very interesting chat with director Anu Menon. We also want to give a huge shout out to Ruchika, who so sweetly and kindly agreed to do this with us on such short notice. And interestingly, this is the first time we've had an all girls episode, unintentionally, of course, and some really exciting perspectives on movies and life as an entrepreneur were shared.
Yeah, and hopefully we will have a movie based on our lives at BITS, directed by our very own BITSian director. We had a lot of fun talking to her, and we hope you guys felt the same.
So before you go, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment below all your suggestions, and we'll stay safe. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, yeah.